Ashcroft started off like as a family business, correct?
It did, yeah.
Is it's no longer just family business.
So no, we're not. We're very excited that we're about to celebrate our 1 year wedding anniversary with our new partners, PSA International, PSA Canada. They are the largest container port operator in the world. I think you've got a slide of a map with some of the locations of their
Yeah, it's
operations.
it's something.
So
Let's take a
PSA is
look.
is is based in Singapore. They are, I think, slide 3 there. Um,
Oops, this one.
Next
Nope.
one down. Sorry,
Oh,
next one. There you go.
there we go. There we
So,
go.
so they're based in Singapore. In 2018, they moved 81 million containers through
81 million.
81. Yeah, we can definitely say that again. We moved 81 million containers since we're part of PSA, the PSA family now,
Yeah.
through over well over 40 terminals and ports around the world. And so we're absolutely ecstatic to be a part of the PSA family and to have the leadership, the excellence in operational processes and procedures and infrastructure, the entire understanding of the entire supply chain, understanding of the components of all of the players that are involved in making decisions and being a disruptor. Well, we couldn't ask for a better partner. So we're absolutely thrilled. So we did that deal. We sold 60%. We're still owned as a family 40%. And I've stayed on as the Chief Commercial and Corporate Affairs Officer, working with our new management team and under our new entity. So very exciting times.
What does this partnership entail for the future?
Well, I think it allows us, when we sat down, and I have to go back to answer that question, when we sat down and said, how do we build that out in that
Right.
pretty
No.
picture
Yeah.
or something along those lines? How do we do that? Because we're, like some might think we just fell off the turnip truck as a family, but how do you build it out? Well, you build it out by getting out of your own way, and usually entrepreneurs don't know that, don't realize it until it's
Right.
maybe too late. We didn't want to let that happen. We recognize that in order to have an impact, you have to add good quality value to supply chains, to all of the players involved, again, to the railroad, to the customer, which is at the forefront of everything we do. And then obviously you need the shipping lines. You need all these service providers to support the customer's needs. And you need a location that makes sense. So if you have all of that, what do you do? Well, you need to have a global impact. And certainly, back to your question about some of the changes, that lens of understanding the need for end-to-end solutions in the supply chain is at the forefront of what PSA is doing. And they're doing that through their cargo solutions investments and how they look at that within their network. We didn't know who PSA was when we decided to go and look for a partner. We didn't, frankly. But there was a press release that they put out in about 2016 where this company based out of Singapore had invested in an inland network of terminals in China and had taken a stake in the railroad links with the Chinese government. And we thought, who is that company? Because that's the kind of thinking that's required to build out inland ports and solutions in the right locations like Ashcroft Terminal. And that really spawned the interest for us to really understand and try to think about the world through their eyes and what they're looking to do and how they're looking to add value in the supply chain. It can't just be about throughput on a marine terminal anymore. It has to be about what's inside the box. Where is that product going? Where did that product come from? What are all of the challenges? And what we realized as we started talking to PSA in Singapore was that that was how they wanted to build that was the future, and it was aligned with our vision, although much smaller. And we thought big at the time. It was a lot of alignment in looking at the full ecosystem, and so we went from 21 employees at this time last year to 33,000 colleagues globally. So we're absolutely thrilled with understanding the expertise we get to share and how we're going to build this out together.
How much of a difference is it? Because we've had other guests on the show, specifically one that he had worked for one of the biggest shipping companies in the world, just huge one. And he now works for a smaller company, and he said like massive global company really it taught him systems. So what he's doing now is he's actually managing a bigger company's investing in a smaller company, so he's managing getting that one off the ground. And it just working for that huge global organization helped him understand systems and operations, like you said about visions and sort of this global way of interconnecting everything together, and that it helped him understand. Now he can bring that to the smaller company. How much of a impact just does it have on your own vision and just your understanding of things when you go from sort of that 30-person company and a vision that you think is big, and then all of a sudden that global vision company comes in? How much does that affect just the way you walk into the office and think of what you're doing in a day? Just how much does it affect it?
Significantly, and it's a balancing act to figure out, and it is a balancing act for big companies too. Large companies don't want to stifle entrepreneurial fire. You don't want to do that. But entrepreneurial fire needs the structure of a big company in order to grow. So not everyone is cut out for making the moves and doing that. I think certainly personally, my experience having worked for big companies before, I had a taste of how things needed to be structured and what needed to happen. I think we're business people. That's our background. So we recognized that there were limitations with the kind of procedures and processes and controls and mechanisms you can put in place. And we were seeking that. So it's been very exciting to now see that the world's largest container port operator is bringing their systems into helping us structure our business. What a thrill. And it is a thrill, because whether it's the finance side and the processes and procedures and accounting that get put in place that are absolutely fantastic and what every business should have, bringing in that global expertise of excellence to handle that. When you look at operations and when you look at safety, you don't get to be moving 81 million containers around the world without a safety culture. And now bringing that, we thought we had a good safety culture, and I'm proud of the work that our team has done in that. But now to really take it on a global scale and achieving global excellence, we'll always have work to do on safety. That'll never end. But to have that global resource base to be able to tap into of our brothers and sisters, our colleagues around the world that we can bring in. So it's very exciting and it's needed, and it has to happen, and you have to bring in that structure in order for a small business to grow to a medium-sized business, in order to go to a large business. But you do need to find the thinking internally that brings that entrepreneurial lens that makes you look at the entire ecosystem and makes you think as a disruptor, and then you have to balance it. And that's something we're very, very focused. We're all very respectful and understanding of the need for both. And certainly we've welcomed structure with open arms, and we've welcomed new colleagues with open arms, and we look forward to continuing to build this business together for the next 40 years.
I'm very interested. There's a part we wanted to talk about in I put it under partnerships, and but there's within that there's customers and clients and everything that goes to service providers and I wanted to, but first it is that partnership element that a lot of people watching the show probably have companies. They'd probably love to at some point sell to a big company and that sort of thing. What is it like? Were you involved in that first those first stages of the first meeting with a company of that size and scale? And I mean, you said that size and scale. I mean, you have a very unique market position, so there's a lot of demand, and I'm sure there was a lot of interest from them. But what was that? What's that initial, those initial few months of sitting down with a company like that, and you're going to talk about this huge acquisition that, in your case, your own father had built up. So there's a personal element to it. There's a vision. There's an entrepreneurial element to it, and all that comes in. Now you're sitting in a meeting with a company from Singapore. What is that? What is that?
A lot of fun
Yeah.
is what that is. That is a lot of fun. We spent about a year as preparing for what we call our strategic process, which was to go kind of live with targets of who we wanted to go and contemplate and start discussing and maybe go on a couple dates and do the tang, and I mean all this not literally, figuratively.
Yeah.
Um, and so we spent a year that was the full-time role. And my role through that period was working certainly right alongside my dad as CEO and president. I was managing director, so we were working through that. We were interviewing who was going to represent us in the marketplace. That's also an interesting process. And it became very, very clear that as we were running that we needed somebody to represent us, certainly, to help us guide us, because we don't have all the answers and aren't going to pretend we do, about what this is supposed to look like in an investment banking world. But secondly, we spent that year focused on how to convey our message about the vision,
Yeah.
A, and B, understanding all the supply chain users in the world that think about having an impact for their customers that's about the customer first. And so when we finally launched, we had a list of companies. We did not go out for an auction bid. We did not approach or market to any pension funds, infrastructure funds, hedge funds. We did have some interest from that sector,
I'm sure.
but as Bob's always said, it's economics 101. When you're going to add value and grow a business, it's land, labor, capital, and funds have a very important role in the world, for sure. In this asset at this time, it wasn't the right role because they just bring capital. We had the land, and we needed expertise. We needed all the structure that we just talked about.
Yeah.
We recognized that. And so we looked at all the users, and we looked globally, and lived on airplanes and in airports, and went and talked to people, and you very quickly would understand whether or not a company understood the opportunity and understood about what the customer's needs were, and then looked at your small P partners, your service providers, and how you're going to work together, how you're going to build it out and share a vision. I will say that in a trip to Singapore, the very senior fellow that I met with, he understood it in about 20 seconds, and that really was spurred a much more robust discussions and led to saying I do a year ago. So the whole process is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing it.
It's interesting you say the wedding, the date, because it kind of sounds like you're saying there is that element of it doesn't, that those initial meetings, quite quickly if it's at least worth pursuing. Was that a sense you got?
Absolutely. Oh, well, you always do. Absolutely. I mean, that's salesmanship, but yeah, you get a smell, a sense, or a very direct clarity that it's of interest for the investor, the prospective partner, the customer, whoever it is you're doing the deal with, that they're interested, that makes sense, and that was very clear right away. And so those discussions got a lot of they turned a lot very fun too, because you're having you've got such knowledgeable people in the organization. You're sitting in a boardroom in Singapore. Who the heck is Ashcroft Terminal? Like, where are you?
Yeah.
But when you get to the people that understand the importance of
Right.
the supply chain, they have a sense of what the challenges are in different markets.
Yeah.
We were the first investment that PSA had ever made into North America.